Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:06 this Monday morning. Thanks for tuning in, O'Connor and Company. It's Larry O'Connor. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's me. That's Julie Gunlock right there. It's Larry and Julie this morning. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
At 7:05, we've got Joe DeGeneva joining us. 7:35, Jonathan Schanzer from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Talk about those Iran talks that nobody on cable news is talking about. The U.S. just sat down and negotiated with Iran. You'd think that would get some, coverage from the people who call themselves news organizations. 8:05, Link Lauren, who covers politics. And 8:35, Kurt Schlichter on concerns over the lack of discipline within some of our officers. We had that story about the Space Force colonel who undermined J.D. Vance and has been dismissed. Kurt Schlichter has some thoughts about that. That's all coming up. But if you turned to the mainstream media over the course of the last several days to get news and information about the tariff policy in this country and what's going on, if you stayed here, you heard us talking from day one about, hey, this is really all about China. Ultimately, the president has to go through these hoops for World Trade Organization. He can't just go after China because they're in the WTO. We gave you reasoned and analytical perspective on the whole thing and told you to buckle up and get ready because this is really about China. And ultimately, that's where we ended up. And, if you listen to us and you listen to our guests, you recognize that going in. If you watch cable news, you saw, well, there's only one word to describe it, propaganda. Cable news and broadcast news. An account on X, a media curator, who I have great respect for. I have no idea what his name is or her name. They go by Western Lensman on X. But they put together this montage, and it's great. Take a listen.
We begin this hour with the chaos.
The average American sees chaos. The American people see chaos.
It's total chaos.
You brought chaos.
It's just complete chaos.
Unleashed an economic chaos.
They unleash chaos.
They are creating chaos.
This chaos.
There's too much chaos.
Total chaos.
That amidst the chaos,
We're going to see chaos.
After seeing all the chaos,
the chaos he has unleashed on America.
Continue to see the chaos.
Economic chaos.
A lot more chaos.
Trump's chaos.
This is chaos. With such chaos.
The chaos, because of this chaos. Chaos.
All of this chaos.
Uncertainty and chaos.
Given all that chaos.
When it's chaos.
All the chaos.
Chaos and confusion grows.
More chaos, dysfunction.
The chaos is the purpose. The chaos is the goal.
It's chaos.
Talking points
Chaos.
are out. Chaos.
Yeah. And it happens all the time. And it's like literally all the time. I've got more examples for you that I'll play for you. And then cut to Sunday. Okay, let's turn on the Sunday shows. Let's take a listen. Here's Elizabeth Warren on Jake Tapper. True to form, here she is.
Well, let's keep in mind, tariffs can be an important tool in the toolbox when used in targeted ways. But right now what we've got is chaos and corruption.
There you go.
Go.
Okay, let's turn over to Channel 7 there, ABC's This Week. Jonathan Karl sitting in. All right, Elizabeth Warren, what are you telling that audience?
Look, there is no tariff policy. It's just all chaos and corruption.
It's like, just over and over. And it's like, sure, we don't expect much from politicians, I guess. They all get their talking points and they just do what their handlers tell them to say. But it's when the anchors repeat it as well. It becomes propaganda. They're all on the same page.
You actually you used a really good word for this. What is it? Oh, shameless. I think you have a book about this, right?
Shameless liars. That's the book I wrote about the media. And by the way, that focused specifically on the 2024 presidential election. I have a section when Kamala Harris was introduced with Tim Walz. Do you remember the big talking point there about the joy? Do you remember the joy?
Yeah.
All the joy. Look at, because I look at Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, I think joy, right? Oh, they're so joyful. And yes, back to the montage from Western Lensman.
The one thing that I will not forgive them for is their try to steal the joy from this country.
The joy felt by Americans backing the Harris-Walz ticket.
We are joyful warriors.
Being joyful is part of the American identity.
The joy factor.
Campaign of joy. You're talking about radical joy.
It is downright joyful.
It looks like a joyous rally. It looks like a joyous occasion.
A real zeal and joy in the campaign.
The joy that you're bringing back to the country.
Joyful, exuberant rally.
Thank you for bringing back the joy.
Power of joy.
Hope and joy.
Something incredibly joyful.
She does it all with a sense of joy.
Joy. Joy. Joy.
Joy.
Joy.
Joy.
Joy.
Joy.
Joy.
Joy. Joy.
Imagine that. American politics. Joyful again.
This is you would think that they would have some shame, that they would not play into this, that they have some sense of dignity, that they wouldn't just continue repeating what is being said all across every network, but they do it every single time. And like I said, once you see it, you don't unsee it. Rush Limbaugh, I think, was the first to shine a light on this, and Brent Bozell and the people at Media Research Center who started pointing this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one thing that I think has frustrated the right is how good the left and the Democrats are at staying on message. These people never veer from the talking points. And on the right, on the Republican side of the aisle, you have all these inconvenient free thinkers who often get off message or criticize their own party or criticize the leadership of the party. And it really can be frustrating. It's like herding cats. On the right, but the left, man, they are good at this, and we see this over and over again. They did this a couple months ago with eggs. There was some video where they all said the same thing, and it was probably Western Lensman or another one of these Twitter accounts that you could see. They literally did not veer off these talking points. They all sat down. They had the mics. They'd obviously been coached on how to make this look like, oh, I'm just casually talking to you. All the same message. Again, DNC talking points. They stick to them.
But let's be clear here. When you say they, half of they are the paid teleprompter readers for the networks.
That's right.
When they incorporated into their script. Here's one more. And I play this for you because, again, once you hear it, you'll start hearing it from news outlets that you think you even have some faith in, that you think, over here it's different. No, these news people, and I'll honestly tell you, a lot of it has to do with political agenda. The other part, here's the dirty little secret, they're just lazy. They all copy and paste. They repeat what they hear elsewhere. So remember when Chuck Schumer was under fire by the radical left in his party, which is pretty much the entire party, because he didn't shut down the government, right? And Chuck Schumer sort of renegotiated with Republicans and made sure the government was funded. Well, apparently, the radicals in the Democrat Party and their partners on CNN and MSNBC, they were concerned that Chuck Schumer had not met the moment.
The strength that we have is in this moment.
Listen to your constituents. Center them in this moment.
But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment.
I think about what's happening, in this moment.
What's important is that we meet this moment.
So are these current Democrats the ones to meet the moment?
What do you want to see us doing right now in this moment?
And which Democrats are actually going to stand up against Elon Musk and Donald Trump in this moment?
The fight that you all are exhibiting is not just what the base wants, but it's what this moment requires.
It's all about the moment. It's like just over and over and over again. And in a moment, we'll actually, in this moment on this program, we will actually give you some details about where things stand on the tariffs and educate you and inform you and actually give you news and maybe even our analysis and perspective. But we're not going to just repeat what you hear over and over and over and over and over again. That is what happens in these mainstream outlets. And they're making millions doing this. And right. I wish we had 1/10 of their budget to do what we do on this scrappy little show. But I do feel like our audience ends up a little bit more informed and enlightened and maybe entertained by the end of it, especially when we, in an entertaining way, can show you how bad they are. So that's what you got over the weekend. You just got repetition, chaos, 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 instead of actually talking about what's happening in this country so that you can sort of navigate your way through it. Stick with us. We'll get to that in a moment.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
News and weather are brought to you by WAPA.
Home sweet Thompson Creek.
Let's change of pace song there. I'm not sure where that came from. All right, let's get right back into the topic here. Was there a reason for that song? Am I missing the joke?
I didn't choose it.
Oh, it's at this moment.
Oh.
Okay. Sure. All right. Okay. So remember how the music's not supposed to distract the host? Remember that rule on the show? All right. So let's get into if you were watching last week, you know that the Trump administration put a pause, 90 days, on the tariffs across the board, reduced it down to every country to 10% except for China, where it was game on, and we were going to go at it. Now, what happened over the weekend was that it was announced that there would be a tariff reprieve on most electronics, smartphones, and computers. Which I was like, oh, you're giving China a break on that. That's everything. Well, first of all, that's not everything. Sadly, I wish it were. But no, we're getting our underwear. We're getting our pharmaceuticals. We're getting
everything.
Food products from China, stuff that we should never be getting there. If it were only electronics, that would be one thing. But even more importantly, if the media who reported the story last week were actually thorough and wanted to inform their viewers instead of just trying to become part of the political conversation and help Democrats win a fight, you would have learned that there was actually quite a bit in the announcement that went well beyond just, we're going after China. There was an announcement last week that they would be rolling out a separate deal. Here's Stephen Miller, one of the top aides, deputy chief of staff. He was on over the weekend basically explaining it and laying it out. Here, take a listen. Cut 7.
You were targeting specific items from day one. Walk us through these exemptions, Stephen, and what they mean.
Yes, this is just another great example of how President Trump had a detailed plan from the beginning that's being executed exactly as directed. And unfortunately, some in the media are deliberately misportraying that plan. The original 20% IEPA, that's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, for China poisoning our citizens with fentanyl, that 20% rate is and continues to be applied to all imports from China. When the president issued his reciprocal tariffs, our government at the time specifically said that chips and semiconductors, which are critical components of our national security, were going to be dealt with through a separate commerce authority known as a 232. That was always the plan. Because
So I remember specifically on this show talking about how there's a carve out for chips and semiconductors. That was, it wasn't the headline, it wasn't the top thing that we were talking about, but it was certainly included in the original announcement. Stephen Miller is completely right here. I remember that specifically from the first announcement that came out about tariffs.
Yeah,
it doesn't get any mention, and now they're reporting it's like, oh, now they're going back on these chips. No, they were always going to carve out chips and semiconductors.
Yeah,
that was
that's
always
right.
part of the plan.
Yeah, I'm just shocked, Larry, that the media isn't properly explaining this. And I'm glad that Stephen Miller is the best to explain complicated matters like this, and he's masterful at this. But I am sad to see that this kind of analysis is only happening really on Fox and more conservative news. I think the chaos message is being spread much more than these very easy to understand explanations from Stephen Miller.
It's funny because you said, on ABC's This Week, I just played for you Elizabeth Warren saying it's chaos and confusion, chaos and confusion.
Exactly.
Right before Elizabeth Warren came on to say it's chaos and confusion, they had Commerce Secretary Lutnick on to explain this, and it doesn't sound very chaotic to me. Here's cut 8.
The notice that went out Friday night saying that electronics, a wide range of electronics, including smartphones, including components used to make microchips, that these are now exempt from the reciprocal tariffs. Why that move?
Well,
Remember, those products are going to be part of the semiconductor sectoral tariffs, which are coming. So you're going to see this week there'll be a register in the Federal Registry. There'll be a notice put out. That is different types of work. So we're going to do that. We did that in autos. The president's going to do it for pharmaceuticals, and he's going to do it for semiconductors. So all those products are going to come under semiconductors, and they're going to have a special focused type of tariff to make sure that those products get reshored. We need to have semiconductors. We need to have chips, and we need to have flat panels. We need to have these things made in America. We can't be reliant on Southeast Asia for all of the things that operate for us. So what he's doing is he's saying they're exempt from the reciprocal tariffs, but they're included in the semiconductor tariffs, which are coming in probably a month or two. So these are coming soon. You shouldn't think this is really outside of it. Really think of it as being included in the semiconductor space, much like pharmaceuticals. These require special attention, and the president is on it.
So you're saying that the big tariffs on things like smartphones and laptops, iPhones, all those iPhones built in China, that those tariffs are temporarily off, but they're going to be coming right back on in another form in a month or so? Or what are you saying?
Correct. That's right. That's right. Semiconductors and pharmaceuticals will have.
Do you notice how Jonathan Karl is like? He's acting like English is his second language. He's like, and he's trying to lay in these layers of the tone in his voice. So wait. So let me understand this, because I don't. It's like what's there? What's so hard?
What's hard about this?
What's so hard?
Yeah.
It's like, these tariffs are coming. It's not part of the reciprocal tariffs. It's its own separate tariff. And those are getting rolled out, and they are coming, and that's what's happening.
Not difficult to understand.
No, and by the way, this is the same media who told us that Joe Biden was at the top of his game and sharp as a tack, and his team was, brilliant, and everything was so. Oh God, thank God we have normalcy back in the White House again.
Right, exactly.
It's just just do yourself a favor and stop consuming this media. Let us do it for you so we can mock it and then tell you the truth. 624.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:36. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here this Monday morning. It's a busy day, but we got you covered. And we're going to get you started the right way here. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGenevieve will join us. 7:35, Jonathan Schanzer, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, about the Iran talks this weekend. 8:05, Link Lauren, political analyst and commentator. And then at 8:35, Kurt Schlichter, retired colonel, concerned about some issues with the chain of command over there in the Pentagon. He'll give you all those details. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. So let's give you an update. An immigration judge on Friday determined what you already know because you've been listening to this show and this radio station, that yes, the Trump administration, or any administration for that matter, is fully within their rights and constitutional confines to deport Mahmoud Khalil. I love the way the Associated Press headlines this. Columbia University activist Mahmoud Khalil can be deported. Columbia University graduate student Mahmoud Khalil can be forced out of the country as a national security risk, an immigration judge. All right, first of all, he hasn't been enrolled as a student at Columbia University since December, since the Biden administration. Okay,
right.
Number one. So why are you continuing to label him that way? He is the spokesperson and leader of a pro-Hamas group in this country, funded by foreign entities to wreak, can I use the word, chaos in America, undermining our national security interests, our foreign policy, and targeting our peaceful allies as as a target of their of warlike behavior from Hamas, the October 7th slaughter of innocents, and this guy is an apologist and excuser for that. When Columbia University took over a building on campus and refused to allow Jews to walk across the quad, this guy was their leader. He was their spokesperson. That's right. But the way the media, Columbia University activist. All right. He came into this country on a student visa. He lied on the application to get that student visa. Anybody who is a guest in this country and not a citizen knows that they are here conditionally, and the United States has the right to revoke that permission to be here at any time based on your behavior, based on what you do if it undermines the national security of this country, and if you are consorting with people who are engaging in criminal behavior. This guy meets all of those hallmarks.
It is unbelievable also, Larry, to consider the fact that what this guy has done, it's after October 7th. After October 7th, we have seen what Hamas did to those innocent people in Israel. And this guy has publicly supported Hamas. He wants the destruction of Western civilization. What in the world was he doing here in the first place? This is a correction. This is simply a correction. He should never have been allowed into this country. Piers Morgan this weekend made a very good point. If this had been a white supremacist running around campus, blocking black students from getting to class, threatening them, scaring them, trapping them in libraries, suggesting that they were going to be harmed and harming them, there would be no question. Time to go home. But because it's a Jewish student and because the target is Jews on campus, they're allowed to do this. What does that tell you? Acceptable anti-Semitism in this country.
He's going to appeal this. It was an immigration judge in Louisiana who ruled Friday and said absolutely he can be deported. We'll see where it goes after the appeal right now. But it's... the process is playing out. This ruling, of course, was not a surprise because you listen to this show when you hear Joe DeGenova talk about this stuff, as you will, coming up at 7:05. All right. Furthermore, the Maryland father. Remember the Maryland father who now finds
just
himself...
a father.
He's just a father, just trying
dad.
to raise his kids in Maryland, just like me. Oh, sure, he's been identified by multiple representatives of the U.S. government as a member of the MS-13 gang from El Salvador. He, of course, got caught up in the roundup of Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gang members and was sent to a prison in El Salvador. Now, as you know, the Supreme Court entered a decision Thursday saying unanimously that the administration, the executive branch, needs to help facilitate his release. That's it. Facilitate was the word that was used, not effectuate, by the way, which was a lower court said they had to effectuate his release. This court, the Supreme Court, said no, facilitate. So work with the Salvadoran government to get him out of the prison. That's it. You heard misreporting all day long and all weekend long that the Supreme Court ordered that he is to be returned to the United States. No, that is not what was determined at all. That is fake news if you're hearing it, and I don't care where you're hearing it. That's wrong. The only order that came down was that the administration must work with the Salvadoran government to facilitate his release from the prison, period, end of story. He was in this country illegally. He is a Salvadoran citizen. He claims that his life is threatened if he goes back to El Salvador, probably because he is, in fact, an active gang member.
Right.
That's where that stands right now, and the Trump administration has not directly responded to that. There is no timeline, by the way, on the Supreme Court decision. Meanwhile, back here in this country, as everyone sort of, plays the violin and cries tears for these people who have been rounded up and sent to the Salvadoran prison, let me just give you a quick news report. This is out of Seattle, Washington, I believe, KOMO, describing two men associated with Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang that has now been categorized as a terrorist organization. Here's what they were doing in the neighborhood up there.
This is the Burien apartment complex where police say two men kidnapped the woman as she was getting home from work. From here, investigators say the men used a power drill on the woman's hands, threatened her, and eventually drove her here to the mountains near Snoqualmie Pass, where they forced her over a Jersey barrier and then shot her. She told police she played dead and waited for the men to leave before flagging down help. After months of work from the King County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, 2 men, Alexander Arnaez and Kevin Sanabria, are now in custody, charged with kidnapping, robbery, and attempted murder. Investigators noted in their report that the victim and witnesses had extreme fear of retaliation, noting one of the men has possible ties to a Venezuelan gang.
An unprecedented, dangerous, deadly crisis has been imposed on this nation by the Biden administration and their neglect of our border security. And it needs to be repaired. And that ain't going to be pretty all the time. And sometimes, yeah, there may be mistakes made and people might end up getting deported. I'm sorry. That's bad. What these people who have been allowed into this country to do to innocent civilians is worse. And if you can't see that, there's something wrong with you. It is 6:44.
WMAL, making sense of education, because what's happening in your kid's school matters. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
I think Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, is kind of weird. Is that?
I agree.
I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to overstate the case, but she was in the White House last week, trying to secure some funding and support from the Trump administration for a project back in Michigan, which is what governors do, right? Gretchen Whitmer also wants to be president of the United States. She wants to be the candidate in 2028, and she's, I guess, torn from the fact of wanting to be there in D.C. at the White House, trying to help the people of Michigan, as a good governor would.
Her job,
and her persona amongst the radical leftists who are going to nominate the presidential candidate. So as a New York Times reporter was taking pictures of individuals in the Oval Office, Gretchen Whitmer saw the lens pointed at her, and her instinctive response was to hold up these file folders she was holding in her arms to cover her face, like it was some sort of cloaking device. It's like, my eyes are closed, you can't see me. What?
Yeah. This was so childish, so unprofessional, so ridiculous, and weird. I mean, my response to that was, and they called JD weird. I mean, the idea... Yes. Again, childish, unprofessional, silly. This is just not what you do. You look, you're a governor of a state. I know you might not like Donald Trump, but you go to the White House. You do the bidding for your state. That's your job. And this whole file in your face, honestly, so strange.
Yeah. Even Keith Olbermann pointed out and said it's rare when you get a shot of the exact moment a politician's career ends, but there you go. It's like they handed J.D. Vance his first campaign ad if she does get the nomination, but I don't think she's going to get that far. Like I said, she's weird. 6:52.
Making sense of your world.
I can't believe this.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
And I am so with you.
Making sense of the news.